was trying to mutate myself into a better Yu-Gi-Oh player, and this happened!
What? You know what? I fail to see the problem here.
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-minute testing. Ugh, I can feel my cells blasting, my DNA changing, my body mutating. I have finally attained the genetics necessary to read cards. It is all over for you, hoes. But before I ascend beyond this realm, I will impart my final wisdom to you. Here's how to play Myutant. Before we begin, instead of my usual pot sweetening, I'd like to congratulate the next president of the United States.
Joe Biden.
I always knew it'd be you, pal. So here's the list, and I know. Trap cards. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is an online strategy site for our mutual favorite card game. It's got a deck builder, card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. It's also where I post the Quarantine Series deck breakdowns, so give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's mess with Myutant. Myutant is a TCG exclusive archetype debuting in Phantom Rage, taking up valuable real estate that should be reserved for plunder! But I digress. Anyway, these mutable monsters are actually quite interesting. They come in two flavors, big and little. The little ones are psychic type and search a particular super type of card on summon, then can be tributed alongside a card banished from your hand to summon a particular one of the big boys from your deck. Each of the big mutants corresponds to a card super type as well. Beast negates spells, Arsenal banishes monsters when a monster effect is activated, and Mist cycles on trap activation. There's a reason we're not playing that one. People have speculated builds that play Thunder Monsters, builds that play Metaphys, but because of a dearth of playables, a glacially slow playstyle, and power located in very specific single cards instead of divided between a summonable slew of extra deck monsters, we're gonna have to play the archetype Stun. Now, for what it's worth, this deck is a pretty good candidate for Stun. Like Guru, it has multiple one-card starters, plays well with Floodgates, and can sit on a single monster once the game state is simplified, so like Guru, we're gonna jam 18 traps and call it a day. What's more, I think most profiles so far have missed how absolutely insane Cross Sheep is in this deck. We can make it turn 1 and go into Synthesis from a Cry to resummon any of our Psychic Mutants for extra searches. And if we do so with Expansion set as well, we can flex the fact that Sheep doesn't care what is summoned, it cares what it's pointing to, meaning single summons on turns 2 or 3 can translate into insurmountable advantage swings. Ideally, our best hands will include 05 into 46, Lab to cycle them and search Cry, and repeatable summons of Beast to insulate our back row against Lightning Storm. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First, the big boys! 1 Arsenal and 2 Beast. Next, the little guys, 3 ST46, who searches spells and traps, and 3 M05, who searches monsters. After that is our love letter to this garbage format, 3 Gamma and a Driver. For spells, we're on Disparity. I know this card isn't out yet, and in the meantime, you can play the draw spell of your choice, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to try it out. We're on 3 Evo Lab, and I can't decide if I want to play 3 of this card for the highest chance of triggering both little guys in the same turn, or 0 because it's not very likely. We're also on 1 Fusion as a Verte target, 1 E-Telly, and 1 Called by the Grave. For traps, we're on 3 Cry, 3 Expansion, 3 Infip, 3 Teekboo, 3 Summon Limit, and 3 Solemn. In the extra, we are on 2 Ultimus, Makaba, 2 Synthesis, Dingirsu, Nova, Access Code, BLS, Unicorn, Phoenix, Cerberus, 2 Cross Sheep, and a Verte. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Lair, and that's Lair full stop. At least have the decency to play Infernoid in the future. We're going first, we're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Disparity. We'll banish 6 cards of our choice from our extra deck face down, eat an Ash Blossom, and respond with a Gamma. Let's see what we find off the top. Oh, a bunch of traps. Okay, we'll take Solemn Judgment and then normal summon a copy of ST46. We will add a Mutant Cry to hand before activating ST46 to go into a Beast, link summon a copy of Cross Sheep, set 3 cards, and pass back to our opponent. For turn, our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Pot of Extravagance ripped off the top. Okay, I drew Disparity, not a big deal. They'll go for Arima to get a copy of Lair. They'll activate Lair. We'll activate Beast in order to negate it, and then we'll banish the Beast so that we can activate Mutant Cry, putting the Beast back to go into a Synthesis. We'll activate the effect of Synthesis, tucking one of these trap cards before activating the effect of Cross Sheep in sequence and the effect of ST46 at resolution. We'll get a copy of Expansion to hand as our opponent passes turn. For turn we draw, Fusion, disgusting. We'll go from ST46 into, and arsenal, I suppose. They'll shotgun a copy of Scythe, but we're not going to be summoning from the extra deck. We're going to bring back this ST46, and this is where Cross Sheep shines. We've activated ST46 every single turn this game. Our opponent's going to back to the front to preserve their life total, but we will gladly take freebies. We'll pass back to our opponent, who for turn will draw a copy of Darklight. That super polymerization is rotting in hand. These monsters are all different types and attributes. They're going to normal summon a copy of Ash Blossom so they can make a Mud Dragon, but unfortunately that doesn't resolve the Synthesis still on field. I think we can even go a little further here. While we banish the second copy of Synthesis off of this disparity, we can still make it happen. We'll go into a Beast and then a Cry so we can shuffle everything back to go into an Ultimates. Functionally, the game is over from this position. We'll attack over this copy of Mud Dragon and pass it back to our opponent, who draws a Red Eyes Insight off the top. Oh, they must have banished something very particular with that Pot of Extravagance. We'll go to battle phase and attack in for 35. We'll pass it back to our opponent. For turn they draw... God, I have been there. Our second match is up against Zodiac, and this game showcases just how difficult it is for this deck to play around the powerful playmakers also found in Phantom Rage. In this case, I'm speaking about Double Azaeus. We're going first, and without any starter, we're just going to set 4 and pass. Still, they are 4 good cards, and we should be able to do it. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Pot of Desires. They'll draw a couple of cards, and one of them is a Thoroughblade. Now, this is the Megaclop setup, but as they go into Borbo, I realize they are not going for it. Instead, they're going for a Double Azaeus setup, which I absolutely have to stop. We'll activate Expansion at end step so we can summon a copy of M05 and activate its effect in order to get an ST46 to hand. For turn we draw... Ooh, the Arsenal, come on. We're going to normal summon a copy of ST46, they'll activate Valor, we'll called by the Valor, they'll Valor again, and we will not be able to search a spell or trap. Well, no big deal, we can still activate the effect of ST46, which will eat a Solemn Strike. God, that's frustrating. From here we can activate M05 in order to go into a copy of Beast and proceed to the battle phase. We'll attack, they'll activate Whiptail, we'll activate Infinite Impermanence, they'll activate Book of Moon, we'll negate Book of Moon, and they'll activate an Infip as well. Oh, frustrating to be on the losing end of a 1-for-1 this deep, but that's just the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes sometimes. Our opponent draws a copy of Infinite Impermanence off the top, they'll go into a Trident, proceed to battle phase, walk over my monster, and then in main phase 2 they'll be able to overlay for Double Azaeus himself. They'll, unfortunately, stonewall us completely with this card. We have so few outs to it. At end step, they will eat our board for free. We're at 6,000 life points, so we have an entire turn to figure out how we're going to beat this. But the fact that Zodiac can make this card activatable twice is so detrimental. We draw an expansion, but it does absolutely nothing when they activate Negalogia in the end step. And unfortunately, they will get in for lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Dragon Link, which is terrible news for us, but terrible news for our opponent is that we've drawn Psy-Frame Gear Gamma. Let's see if we can deploy it effectively. They'll go from Tracer into a Striker Dragon, triggering the Noct Division in hand and adding a copy of Boot Sector Launch to their grip. Next they're going to link summon a copy of Romulus and trigger Noct Division in sequence so that I can't profitably Gamma. From here they're going to activate Divine Lance and then activate Divine Lance's effect to equip a copy of Phalanx, which they will summon afterwards. From here they can go into a copy of Link Cross, which they will use to summon 2 tokens to their side of the field. Afterwards they'll synchro summon a copy of Martial Metal Marcher, at which point I will fire this copy of Gamma. I feel like I'm kind of out of the woods. They've used their normal, until I see the World Legacy Guard Dragon. Yeah, that's as bad as it could get. They'll go into Tracer and Halqifibrax. They'll activate the effect of Halqifibrax, summoning a cube from hand to go into Herald of the Arclight. That's going to get them a living fossil, which they can use to extend further, bringing back this Phalanx and making an LP. They'll activate World Legacy Guard Dragon. Had to be that exact piece of extension to get a Brotar from deck after moving the LP. They'll activate the effect of Brotar, and then go to a Levianeer. They'll activate Pisty's effect to bring back this copy of Tracer, and then Link summon, the Buster Blader, Link, and Hieratic Spheres before activating the effect of Chaos Dragon Levianeer to reborn a monster, enabling a Union Carrier. They'll activate Tracer so they can make a Borreload Savage Dragon, and then activate Union Carrier to lock me from the extra deck. What an unbelievable combo. Alright, we draw for turn a copy of Expansion. We'll lead with a copy of M05. They will Savage, but that doesn't destroy, just negates. From here we can activate the effect of M05, which will fiend the Arclight from our opponent. No big deal. We have the Evolution Lab in hand, so we can bring back ST46 and activate its effect to get a Cry. From here we can activate Evo Lab to shuffle back this copy of Arsenal, and then activate the effect of ST46 to get the Arsenal back. They can't really profitably activate the effect of Spheres because I could banish the Borreload, preventing it from resolving a second time. They'll activate a Guard Dragon off the top to bring back this copy of Tracer, and then normal summon a Seyfert. I'll activate Teekboo. They'll activate Borreload Savage. We'll banish the Teekboo in order to banish the Savage. They'll trigger Tracer in response, and unfortunately I think they just have one material too many, especially after activating Seyfert. They'll bring back this copy of Chaos Dragon Levianeer and summon it. I should have been a little bit faster on this Cry, but I don't think it made a measurable difference. We miss out on one piece of destruction, but they have a free special summon in hand. They could have easily done what they were about to do, which is make Boral Sword Dragon and get in for lethal. So it's time for game 2, and oh, this hand is disgusting. Well, there can be only one as a powerful card. It's just got to be the entirety of our game plan this time. We're going to pass back to our opponent, who will lead with a copy of Chaos Space. They'll send a Tracer to the graveyard and then special summon a White Dragon Wyvern Burster, going into a Striker Dragon and trying to trigger a Noctivision, to which we will respond with There Can Be Only One. They're going to add a Black Dragon Collapse Serpent to hand, get in for 1,000, set 2, and pass turn. Yu-Gi-Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that does nothing, so we might as well pass turn again. I'm not really under any pressure. They're going to set a Magna Rocket Dragon and get in for another 1,000. As long as they don't find something like a Cosmic, I should be good. We draw another copy of Infinite Impermanence. Sheesh, there's got to be playables in here somewhere. Our opponent's going to attack in for another 1,000 and then pass it back to us. Finally, we find something playable. It's an expansion. We'll set that and pass it back to our opponent for what is hopefully the last time. They're going to set a Black Dragon and then attack in for 1,000. At end step, we'll activate expansion, summoning from deck a copy of M05. M05 will trigger in order to get us a copy of ST46, and we will go ahead and activate the effect of M05 as soon as we can in our main phase. We'll go into a beast and then activate Evolution Lab to bring back the ST46 we sent for cost. They'll infip, but we have an infip in the same column, which we can use to negate theirs. We'll resolve the effect of the ST46 in order to get a Cry to hand, then we'll activate 46, clearing our back row in the process, and getting over not only the Black Metal Dragon, but also the set copy of Magna Rocket. From here we can set both the Called by the Grave and the Cry, and pass it back to our opponent, who draws a quick launch for turn. They'll activate infip in the Teekboo column, and then special summon a Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, only for us to reveal another one, and them to concede. So it's time for that all-important Game 3. Our opponent is going first, and their hand is garbage. Wow, one starter would really turn this whole thing on. Okay, well, they're forced to pass turn, and we should be able to do this. We're going to lead with a copy of Pot of Disparity, banishing 6 cards from our extra deck and finding off the top 3 infip in a row. I guess I'm taking one of those, huh? We're going to normal summon a copy of ST46. They have infip, which is kind of the worst possible hand trap for us. Huh. We're going to set 3 and pass, getting in for 250 damage. Imagine that. For turn, our opponent draws, the best starter in their deck, Black Metal Dragon. They'll use it to go into a Striker Dragon and trigger the effect of Black Metal Dragon to get a copy of Red Eyes, and also Boot Sector Launch to hand. We can activate Summon Limit afterwards, but we will be losing ST46 at the very minimum. They'll pass back to us, and we can still maybe make it work. We're going to normal summon a copy of M05 and trigger its effect for, I don't know, an ST46 again. We'll go into a beast and walk over their monster. We know they have to be loaded up with spell cards. We'll set an additional copy of Summon Limit and pass turn. Our opponent's going to lead with a copy of Boot Sector Launch. I will let it resolve. They'll go into a Wyvern Burster and a Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, which they will use to walk over Beast. We'll activate Cry in main phase 2 to go into a Synthesis and eat their Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, and we basically just have to coast on this Synthesis until the end of the game. Unfortunately, it turns on their Tactics Talents. We couldn't have done this outside of the main phase because of the text on Cry, and they get to draw a ton of cards. The Levianeer looms. We're going to get in for 2,500. I guess we can set this copy of Expansion, but this is going to be rough. Our opponent's going to lead with Chaos Space. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and summon this copy of Levianeer, whose effect we will Infinite Impermanence, but the body is what I'm more scared of. They're going to summon a copy of Noctivision as well. From this position, they are in a very good one. They'll get this copy of Tracer back to hand. They'll walk over our Synthesis, and while we do get this copy of SD46 back, it's going to be very hard to get back into the game. We'll summon a copy of M05 at end step with this copy of Expansion, and get Beast. We're just running out of cards, truthfully. We're going to activate the effect of ST05 to go into a copy of Beast and the normal summon 46 in order to get a Cry. This is a huge mistake on my part. We don't have a good target for Cry. We banished one of our 2 copies of Synthesis off of the Pot of Disparity, and as a result, the only thing we can go into is Ultimus. They will activate the effect of Noctivision Dragon and pass turn. We draw into a copy of There Can Be Only One. We'll set it and pass back to our opponent. They will activate the effect of Hieratic Spheres. We'll activate the effect of Cyphering Gear Gamma in order to destroy it, but things are not looking great. Our opponent's going to normal summon a copy of Seyfert and special summon a White Dragon Wyvern Burster, attempting to get in for lethal, but running straight into a Teekboo. Unfortunately, we are only at 1,600. We have to draw something crazy off the top, and we simply don't. We'll have to concede. Well, we're back with the deck, and it's a good start to an archetype. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1. These are the bones of a very powerful strategy. Obviously, it requires a hell of a lot more playables, but the little guys are some of the strongest searchers ever printed. They just need better surrounding playables. 2. This is a list that massively benefits from the auto-win cards of Summon Limit and There Can Be Only One. They're not too interactive, but they are good. And 3. Synthesis is a heck of a boss monster. He's a chonker, and he goes 2 for 1 at worst. And the cons. 1. It's just not there yet. The fusions are too high investment without easy ways to churn through cards, and the payoffs are too weak without knowledge of the surrounding metagame. Unfortunately, the combos are too cringe. 2. A lot of the heavy lifting is being done by the floodgates. That's not a great position to be in, given how ready everyone is to beat them. And 3. It's still pretty hard to manage and play. The material of the fusion monsters isn't always accessible, and as you saw the last game, it's easy to screw up a sequence. All in all, the archetype is not there yet, but the bones are showing. I expect this to take off, but maybe not for a couple more sets. So that's that. As always, thanks to my patrons Dominic Ernst, Hakuo, Alex Perea, Candyman, Chibi Gohan, Crispy, Dimsum05, Frosty, James Oakes, King Magic Ruler, Lavender Lemonade, Mike Carlotti, Rocky Hernandez, Rose Lapine, Sir Tachyon, Space Dandy 1993, Tyler Slacks, Tyrese Biggums IV. New month. Adam Trevino, Adrian Bra, Emil Elefandi, Algis Marcin Kavicius, Andrew Benson, Andrew Furuya, Andrew Horseman Linderman, Angry Bread, Apex Systems, Billy Williams, Blake Root, Black, Candide, Chad Bortz, Chess Prime, Chorps Away, CJ Alex, Control for the Win, Dan the Man Hoban, Darcy Taves, Dylan Conley, Dive Missile, Donnie Fillerup, Distrin, Emperor Stove, Ernesto Ibarra, Fighting Fangwong, FUTR, Gavin Charlikowski, Gil Gables, Intercrest, Isaac Jackson, Jane Ya, Jared Lauren, Jason Leonard, Jeff Leonard, Jose Luis Cortez, Juliet Chulian, Corey Hess, Korakaze, Lawrence, Lucas Girtis, Lucky Number 5, Lucas Arito Hansen, Mac the Moderate, Meadow Edits, Mezzo Emrys, Michael Oskavark, Miyuna Arashi, Nick Extreme 99, Nick Dolores, Picnic Blasted, Pro FP2, Pro Yugi Dad, Samsoon, Safik Ashley, Seeker, Sean Deal? I think I'm getting that right. Second, Shine 55, Standards Objective, Swinkles, This Machine 237, TJ Steakhouse, Yuri's Best, Zach Janchuski, Zach McKee, and Yuki A. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.